to infinity and beyond. Today we're going to talk about Toy Story 4. You guys, it's been a while since this movie came out. I hadn't seen it right away, which is weird because I love the Toy Story movies, so I was surprised how long it took me to see this movie. But finally I went and saw it, and I really enjoyed it. It was different than the other movies, which I think they continued to get different and different. But I still enjoyed it. I had fun. I went with my sister, and she and I went, so we were at the theater, and the room was full of like a bunch of adults, and it was kind of awkward for the first half of the movie because nobody laughed out loud. And there were moments that were funny, and I busted up laughing alone, and I'm the only one laughing, and so Mika's over there like quietly laughing with me, but I'm like, Mika, no one's laughing here. She's like, I know. I'm like, this is so weird. Why are people laughing? This is funny. And then it only just further like solidified my resolve to laugh even more. I didn't like ham it up, but I did like give myself permission to laugh even if no one else was. Like, I'm gonna have fun, and you know, hopefully they just join in, but like, they're crazy for not laughing because this is hilarious, right? It's a funny movie. So that was a funny dynamic to have to get past, and by the second half of the movie, people were starting to laugh and chime in and like, you know, have their reactions, which was fun. Like, part of the reason we go to the movie theater is to experience it with other people. We want to be in a bigger corporate setting experiencing this thing together, right? It's a beautiful, like, connecting, unifying thing. So, I mean, at this point, I'm like, yeah, I want to laugh out loud because this is funny. I want to, like, pay tribute to the movie, but also, like, invite people to join in on this experience together. Let's enjoy this, shall we, right? So thankfully that happened and it was fun. All right, so there are a few different elements to this. Actually, there are a lot of strong, powerful themes in this movie that I was surprised by. I'm like, well, we're really getting into it, aren't we? But I guess that's been true since the beginning. It's become a little more pronounced and successive. But in this movie, Woody's going on a journey, right? There's this whole stigma of lost toys. A toy that gets lost no longer has an owner or a kid, right? It's like this homeless thing. There's this vibe and stigma, like, you don't want to be a lost toy. Oh, right? And so Woody is like known in the movies for getting lost, like going out of his way, leaving the protection and safety of the home and the toy box to go on an adventure to help whatever. Usually it's his kid, right, or whatever. So there's a character in this movie that is played by Keanu Reeves, which is hilarious, named Duke Kaboom, and he's supposed to be like this motorcycle dude, right? There's a scene where he's about to do this jump with Bo Peep, like for Bo Peep and Woody, and right before he's like ramping up to get to the ramp. But when he does, he sees his kid over the ramp, and he remembers this kid like abandoned him because he thought that he was supposed to make this amazing jump and he couldn't do it. So the kid like just didn't care about him anymore, and he took it, he like identified with it and like absorbed it into his identity, his personhood, and just like accepted failure there. So he's about to do this like epic jump for them, and he sees the kid's face and remembers he can't do it, so then he sabotages the thing and won't do it, which is so reminiscent of us, right? There's this story being told in our lives where we internalize a failure, something that we did or didn't do that was supposed to be something else, and then we made it about us. We're like, oh, I didn't do the thing, and so now I'm bad. Now I suck. Now I'm not good enough. Now I can't do it, or whatever. And that belief keeps us from being able to do the thing, let alone being able to go beyond that thing. Our potential is so vast. Like, what we're capable of is unseen. We have yet to see the limitation of what we are actually able to do or accomplish. But because of the limitations of what we've accepted and believed about ourselves, there is such a short list of things we're actually able to accomplish in our lifetime because of those limitations we accepted. If we could let go of that stuff and open up ourselves to possibility and other than, it's shocking what comes from that place and what we're actually able to accomplish, right? And so watching Duke Kaboom's journey, later in the movie, Bo and Woody stand next to him and they kneel down and they tell him, hey, this is who you are. This is what you did. This is what you're known for. You've done this before. This is what you're capable of. And they just speak over him who he is. They remind him of his unique and specific and powerful identity of what he's supposed to be. And he just like lets it in. He's like, you're right. And he does it. He goes off the ramp. He closes his eyes. Like, you know, I'm doing this without my eyes. And he just closes his eyes, does the thing, clears the gap, smacks his face in the light bulb, but pulls it off, right? And there are a couple things I wanted us to note from that. One, whether it's you who like has the thing you're trying to accomplish or overcome or whatever, or if it's someone that you care about who's trying to do that, remember that speaking identity over these people is one of the most powerful things that can be done for them. Don't try and tell them how it's easy or don't diminish the obstacle. Instead, breathe life and affirm and clarify the power they possess regardless of the obstacle, right? Remind them who they are. Remind them what they're capable of, what they've done before, who God says they are. Give them that. Put it in English. Say it out loud. Put your voice on the thing. It does stuff to us. It makes us powerful, you guys. We don't need that, but it tunes us to the frequency of victory and overcoming and power that we already have, right? So that was a beautiful display that I loved seeing. I was like, that's an awesome moment. There's several super cool moments that I'm not going to say in this episode. It's definitely a worthwhile movie. If you haven't seen it, go see the movie. There's this other part of the movie where Buzz Lightyear he talks with Woody about his inner voice, right? His conscience. And so Buzz, being the space cadet that he is, thinks that the inner voice, what he's talking about, is the pre-recorded Buzz Lightyear, voice box that comes out of him as a toy. So he pushes the button and the voice says the thing, to infinity and beyond, or I don't remember any of the other things, but he adopts this belief oh, this is my inner voice. I'm supposed to follow what this thing tells me to do. So throughout the rest of the movie, he pushes the thing and it tells him, he tries to interpret the message as directional. And I'm bringing this up because I've met a lot of Christians along the way who treat God and their conscience like that. They're not allowed to have a free will anymore. They don't have what it takes to make good choices or to navigate things or to bring their desires to the equation. So they have to find some kind of license around them to justify or validate or permit them to make a choice in a course of action that they don't have to take responsibility for. They're going to blame it on the voice or whatever the thing is, right? You've met those people, God said to do this, God told me this, God said this, that's the thing, God did this to me. And oftentimes I've experienced people putting themselves in the posture of a victim and putting God as the oppressor. I'm like, that is not the nature of this relationship. That's not who he is. It's also not who you are. That commentary is inaccurate. It's erroneous. And there are a lot of well-meaning, sometimes not, Christians out there who put that commentary on their life. They live under that fishbowl of an experience and limit themselves and blame God for it. And oftentimes it's usually to mask cowardice, fear, an unwillingness to be brave or take risks or believe what God is actually saying. Okay, so Buzz was such an interesting display of that. I think it's worth paying attention to. And the one more thing I want to throw in there, at the end, Woody has had all this fear of being a lost toy, of being purposeless, of not having a reason to exist, and so he's obsessed with helping Forky, this thing that the girl made from kindergarten, right? It's this fake toy. It's he's a toy. He's trash. He keeps trying to be in trash. But anyway, Woody goes out of his way so many times in such extreme lengths to help this spork. And then so finally Bo calls him out. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to help him? He's like, I gotta help him. He's important. She's like, he doesn't need you. You need him. You're doing this because you are afraid you don't have a purpose anymore. You're afraid that you don't matter. And he's like, ugh, because the girl he belongs to stopped bringing him out of the closet and stopped playing with him, right? So he's trying to fill this void of meaning and significance and purpose. How many of us have met people in our lives, or maybe if not identified, there are people in our lives who are trying to help us, who are trying to contribute, putting air quotes on all this, to contribute to our lives when actually they're using us as a scapegoat or a canvas to justify their own existence, to scare away their own fear of insignificance or inadequacy or whatever. And so it's not actually love or contribution that's motivating them. They're manipulating and using us to scare away their own demons. That's awful. That's where codependency comes from, right? And it's a nightmare. In my scenario, when you're a mentor and you're speaking to people's lives and having oversight over them, there's a slippery slope there where you could straight up use that as a place to find your significance and your meaning and your purpose and validation for whatever you want to be true about yourself. And when you do that, man, you oppress these people and they don't necessarily have the eyes to see that that's what you're doing. They're in a vulnerable, humble, almost disadvantaged position where they receive from you in a way that's submissive, and so they don't have the eyes to call you out and confront that and say, hey, I think you're doing this. Most of them typically don't know to see that because they're not looking for it. It's an easy way to get deceived and convince yourself as a leader, this is okay, this is right, this is good, I should do it. We don't want that. What a nightmare. So I had an appreciation watching Woody go through that journey and having to work that out in his own heart. I love that Bo had that conversation and they got to challenge it and whatever. At the end, all the toys are leaving. It's this final moment, and Bo Peep is not part of that. So she's staying at the carnival, saying goodbye to Woody for the second time, right? They're departing again, or whatever. And Buzz Lightyear says to Woody, she's going to be okay. And you think, as the audience, he's talking about Bo Peep. And then he says, I forget the name of the girl. It's Bree or something. I don't remember her name is. He says the girl's name, as in the girl who owns all these toys. He's like, she's going to be okay. As in, she doesn't need you anymore. You can be a lost toy. right? Giving him permission to let it go. And so he runs back to Bo Peep, and they reunite and say goodbye to everyone. And then one of the characters says, oh no, now Woody's a lost toy. And then Buzz Lightyear looks at him, and you're getting further and further away from Woody, and he says, he's not lost. Not anymore. And it's this beautiful, redemptive moment where you're like, oh, Woody finally found the cause and the purpose that is in his heart. He wanted to be with Bo, but he sacrificed her to serve his master, right, and whatever. And out of loyalty and duty and respect and honor, he chose to deny his own heart to go after what he thought he was supposed to do. And finally he found rest and peace and redemption in allowing what was coming up inside to be what he said yes to and honored and was loyal to, instead of trying to appeal to somebody else's standard. We can take this many different directions, but it was a beautiful ending to a beautiful story. I love the depth and significance in this movie. It's not just for kids. Obviously it's a kids movie, but there's all this adult humor, but also significance and value and meaning in the story. It's a beautiful story. I highly recommend it. Check out Toy Story 4. And remember, guys, when you're watching a movie, you're never alone. Like, comment, subscribe to this channel. Did you like Toy Story 4? What did you think? What are your thoughts? What are some other epic moments from the movie that you saw that I didn't talk about in this episode? We want to hear from you. Put it in the comments below.